Nassim Haramein, I would like to invite you to a Thrive 2 watch party that we're hosting on August 27th, 2022 at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We'd love to have you there. It's totally free. Foster and Kimberly are going to come on beforehand. They're going to give you an update on the solutions that were featured in Thrive 2. We'll watch the movie together. Foster and Kimberly will jump on chat. They'll answer your questions, provide comments during the film, and they're going to stay on for an extended Q&A session afterwards. So come and join us. This is very special. It may never happen again. You don't want to miss it. To join us, just click on the registration link below. Again, it's totally free. We'll send you everything you need in order to join us on the 27th. So we look forward to seeing you there. As a precursor to the watch party, we're going to show you part one of this special interview between Foster and Nassim Haramein that's in the subscriber-only portion of the Thrive On website called the Freedom Portal. We're making this available for free because Nassim was so heavily featured in Thrive 1 and Thrive 2. So enjoy this 30 minutes as Foster and Nassim geek out on physics. They talk about a very special trip they took together to Egypt where some strange things happened. You're going to see some cool video from that. If you like part one and you want to watch part two, stay on and I'll show you how to get access via Freedom Portal free trial membership. Enjoy.
Hello, thriving Tauruses from all over planet Earth. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday, and we have an exciting conversation ahead of us. Let me just begin by reminding you what we're up to and the purpose of the Freedom Portal. As I've mentioned each week, is to provide an interactive communication opening with humanity, through which productive explorations, like today, compelling media and effective actions can be shared to help guide us to truly thrive. Now you can see in today's picture for the portal that Nassim and I are lifting a 300-ton granite monolith in Egypt. And you can see I'm straining quite a bit. Nassim seems to be quite relaxed and smiling about the whole thing. I know I couldn't have done it without him. So we'll find out a little bit today, you know, how he does this stuff. I want to say a couple of words of introduction. I know that you all know who this guy is, but just by way of bringing him on, I want to say that Nassim, early in his life, you know, as a young boy, was visited by some cosmic beings who introduced him to things that most of us haven't seen. And that inspired him to start into a lifetime of daily meditation. And along the way, that drew him into geometry and cosmology and then into ancient cultures. And we'll find out a little bit more about that today. And then finally into physics. He actually wanted to learn the language that scientists use so that he could instruct them on what he was finding out in their own language. And I also want to say that you know, it's been one of my great pleasures and great honors to get to have fun with this guy and explore with him and admire his courage in the face of just astounding ridicule from ignorant and afraid people. So you probably know him also from not only from both Thrive 1 and 2, but from his documentaries that have been made about him called Black Hole, Beyond the Event Horizon, and Connected Universe. And Kelsey will put some links in the chat to those. So I encourage you to pay close attention and fasten your seatbelts today, because time and space, they have a tendency to alter around this guy. So this could go by very quickly. So Nassim, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Foster. It's so great to be with you again. And it's been a long journey together. It's wonderful.
It has. I hope to share some of the stories today that people don't usually hear about your adventures and some of our adventures together.
Yes.
And we'll show some clips from Thrive 2 as we go through this conversation because it just helps to visualize some of the things that you talk about. But I want to start out by just asking you right off, what did you come here for this lifetime?
Okay, start with the easy question, right?
We'll jump right in.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna answer honestly, and I would say that I feel like I'm on a mission to bring a better, deeper sense of the physics of our universe and thus the physics of ourselves, because we're made out of that stardust that coalesced into a being that's able to observe itself and observe the universe. And I think that understanding this at a deep level of not just in a philosophical way, but of the mechanics of it and how it functions and how we interact with it, brings in a deep transformation in the beings that understand it, and then a deep transformation in the society of those people, because technological development that are very profound can emerge from it. And I so like it's a long answer, but it's the thread I've been on.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll just keep going deeper and deeper into that one. I'd also like to, right here in the beginning, Leandro, if you would play the clip from Thrive 2 that we call The Field, that will help also by way of introduction here.
Yeah, just a second.
I've been studying the unified field and the phenomenon of accessing energy from it for more than 30 years. And since 1997, I've collaborated with cosmologist and inventor Nassim Haramein. He's probably more aware of the physics of how the universe works than anyone I've ever met, even though he was not traditionally schooled. I've seen him ridiculed and shunned by the traditional academic world, but I've just never seen him proven wrong.
The space between you and I and the space between everything appears to be empty. We call it empty space commonly, but it's not. Space-time at a very specific scale of the Planck length is quantized with spherical units of Planck oscillators, billions of times smaller than the atom. You can think of it as like a fluid that permeates all space. It's a source of the gravitational field, it's a source of the electromagnetic field, it's a source of mass, it's the source of charge. So now we're starting to really understand the mechanics of it at a deeper level.
So one of the great honors of my life was that Nassim gave us permission at Thrive to begin to reveal his emerging unified field theory in Thrive 2. And it was just so fun to actually develop new computer graphics software that actually matches the geometry of space, and then to be able to show what he's coming up with. So before we dive into the details of that, Nassim, what do you see as the value of a unified field theory for humans?
Oh, well, I wanted to comment on like how great those animations were, by the way, and the simulations. Some of them are simulations, so they are actually running, physics equations. But it's amazing. What was your question?
What's the value for humans of having a unified field theory? I mean, physicists have been after this for over a century, if not much more. and now it's coming out. What's the value of that?
I think that, like I was saying in the introduction, is that if we understand the universe at a deeper level, but and as we do, we are unifying the force. We can see even in history as we start to unify certain forces, right? And as we did, we got better and better understanding of physics. When we find the solution, which I believe I found, and I'm publishing it in this paper I'm working on right now, where all the constants come together, all the forces comes together, like a picture, and all the scales come together, which is really important. The scaling function of space-time. We discover that there's a deep connection in space, like a universal neural network that's at play, where information is being exchanged not only locally but non-locally throughout the universe. And this exchange of information, both locally and non-locally, produce all these things we call forces and constants, physics constants and scales, and eventually become so complex, so advanced, and produce a human being. And so if we understand this at a deep level, it transforms our understanding of ourselves, because we start to see ourselves as connected to this network, and it transforms the way we deal with energy, the way we deal with gravity. Our technology transformed fundamentally, and that has the opportunity to bring our society to a space colony society and expand our horizons to past the surface of the earth.
Yeah. So can you give us a glimpse of what's the status of this paper that you're working on?
The status is that the physicists that work with me are getting frustrated because I keep wanting to dig deeper, and it's hard to know when to stop, because especially in this paper, because it's so all encompassing, that there's deep meaning in each of the sections, and it's really hard to figure out where to cut it off. But I think in the next month and a half, we will be ready to bring it to the public.
That is so exciting. Now, isn't there an abstract already online?
There is. It's at the Hadron Collider, or the CERN, servers, and as well, you can find it on our website at resonanceScience.org. And
Okay.
so, you can read the abstract, and if you read the abstract, it's exciting, because the claims that are in the abstract are remarkable, and they're real. Everything that's in the abstract we have solved. So
Yeah.
we're pretty excited.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, both the urge to get the fundamental message out there, and also it's such a game changer that the level of pushback that you will probably get from traditional science, that at least whoever's willing to engage, will be so rigorous that it's really smart for you to make sure that you've got all your I's dotted and T's crossed and so forth, so they can just deal with it rather than trying to pick it apart because there's something that's not there yet.
Oh, I'm sure they'll pick it apart. It's just that the parts are gonna hold. And I'm excited, actually, to go through the rigor, and I'm sure that as a result, much deeper meaning will emerge. Because there's so much more to write. It's just what we found is a geometric description of space-time that outputs the right values. And that outputs an analytical solution to gravity, which is really important for humanity at this time.
Mm.
And this was kind of like the missing piece of the puzzle, that when you plug it in, all of a sudden all these other constants of physics, like the Rydberg constant, the G factor, the proton radius, the the electron radius, the electron mass, and all this, mu, the proton to electron ratio, all these things, all of a sudden, including the SI units, all of a sudden all come into one big, beautiful tapestry of creation, that all emerge from the same source.
Well, as I've watched you do this, I have kept thinking about, when Copernicus came along with this radical notion of putting the sun at the center of the solar system. And all of a sudden, all these elaborate orbit, the mathematics of the orbits, which were just wild and fudged and didn't seem to make much sense at all of a sudden they all cohered, and it was very simple because they had been missing the seed truth. So what's the seed truth that Einstein and others have been missing that you think that you're bringing to this that has made it get simple all of a sudden?
Well, actually, yeah, Einstein actually contributed largely, of course, to this, but as well, he made a very important transition or transformation in his understanding later on in his life, but it was not well publicized, and it was not very popular at that point. So it was generally ignored, and that is that space is not empty. And it's full. It's full. It's like we're fish in the ocean, and that ocean is made of particles, like water is made out of particles, right? That are so small at the Planck scale, billions of times smaller than a proton, that we have been unaware of the water we've been in, and just like the fish are made out of the water that they emerge from, and so are we, water and minerals, this water that makes the mineral and that makes the water, this fluid dynamics of space-time that used to be called ether. And that's why I was saying Einstein changed his mind. Like, Einstein basically replaced ether with space-time, and the ether that was formally, it was there before, but was formally introduced by Maxwell for the Maxwell's equation for the electromagnetic field, was removed and replaced with space-time. And later on, Einstein realized that that was an error and said, my equations are invalid without ether. We need the ether in there.
Right.
And there's a great conference by Frank Wilczek, Nobel Prize winner in physics, discussing this, called The Materiality of the Vacuum. And basically, this fundamental field is the source of all the physics that we experience, and most likely the source of consciousness itself. Yeah. That is, the physics is kind of like the sugar that's settling, but actually the information flow is what's important, and that's really, really deep. And so to know that that's there is probably the seed principle that's very important.
Yeah, knowing that it's all tied together is a good start on tying it all together.
Exactly.
So Leandro, if you would play the clip called "The Proton is Matter," that would be timely right now.
Using the smallest measure, a single wave of light he calls the Planck spherical unit, and postulating that its form is toroidal, Haramein predicted that this dynamic is operating at every scale. By applying this hypothesis, he was able to determine the mass of all the elements and predicted the radius of protons and electrons, while also showing this understanding of the spin of the unified field as the source of mass, gravity, charge, and many physical constants. All of this with unprecedented accuracy.
Why does the proton matter? The proton is matter. Everything we see in our reality is what we call matter. If we understand the proton, then most likely that understanding will be correct at larger scale, and that's what we're finding.
Okay, great.
It was such a good movie.
Good, thank you. So I want to share my screen again for a moment because I want to talk a little bit about what I have hardly ever talked about publicly. I figured this would be a great opportunity here today, which is that Nassim and I got to spend a little time together in Egypt. And I don't know who that guy is in the background there, but he's been around for a long time. And in Thrive One, we went on this flying carpet. Nassim took me on a tour of the temple at Abydos, where there are these flower of life symbols that are embedded in the granite. And neither of us had ever been there. Well, we finally got to go there, and we got to go there together. And if you look on this slide, up here is this burned in inscription that Nassim had been referring to, a double version of the flower of life, which has clearly a lot of correlation with this thing you've been working on with the structure of the field. When we were in Egypt, the first arc crystals actually got sent over. They were just finished being manufactured. And so you can see how happy Nassim was to finally have these things in physical reality. And so describe what you're holding there in your hand, Nassim.
Well, there I'm holding 128 tetrahedron crystals arranged in the isotropic vector metric configuration of 64. So I'm like, I have like 2 bits of space-time data. Well, 128 bits of space-time data, but the first division of space is a 64 tetrahedral metric, which I predicted kind of in a non-rigorous way in my van in the 90s when we were hanging out, but that now I have formal mathematical support for, and so this is the first division of space that occurs because of the relationship of the forces, and so I don't want to get into many details, but basically the relationship between quantum forces and relativistic forces produce this factor of 2 on the radius of a Planck, which when plugged into the holographic mass solution gives you a 64 by 64 metric, where the volume has 64 Planck oscillator and the surface has 64 Planck oscillator. So the result is an exact equilibrium, or 1, on the solution, which gives the mass of the first Planck. So this is the first black hole out of the field, if you'd like.
Yeah. So in the first clip that we showed, you talked about creating a resonant link with the geometry of space-time. And when we were in Egypt, you told us all on the tour that you had taken a group to Mexico. I think it was Tulum, is that right?
Correct.
Yep. And you had done a meditation on top of a pyramid where everyone held, you just had charged crystals at that time. You didn't have, it wasn't this advanced yet. Right. But tell us what happened in Tulum.
Well, it was remarkable. We had many remarkable adventures. I think this was in 2011, around November. And we went to the top of Cobalt Pyramid, and it had just rained the sun came out, the rainbows came out, and everybody was gone because of the rain. So it was just our group at the top, and the guards at the bottom kind of screaming at us. But other than that, we just ignored that. But basically at the top, we circled up. We made a double circle with people facing each other, and we had just enough crystals so that everybody could have one, and the hands were going back and forth between the two circles. They were facing each other, and we open up a vortex, if you'd like, in the structure of space-time at the top of the pyramid, and with our intent moved information towards the center of the earth. That was the goal of the meditation, was to connect to the center of the earth, the singularity at the center, and to, through that singularity, connect to the universal structure, the solar system structure, the galactic structure, and say hi to all the galactic beings out there and tell them we're online, and so that was nice, and all this. And then I got home, and I was catching up on all the scientific literature that had been published since while I was on the trip. And one thing came across my desk that kind of caught my eye, is that they had recorded on seismographs around the world the first gravitational pulse ever recorded coming from the core of the earth, from the center of the earth. I looked at the date and I looked at the time, and it was that time at that date. So I was pretty excited.
Now, for some of you who are listening to this and think, okay, a bunch of New Agers got together on an old temple and went into some fantasy, this doesn't have anything to do with science. Okay, I probably had that thought myself, even though I've worked with Nassim for all these years, and all of his predictions have come true except two, and those are in the process of it. Even I was skeptical of this, but here we are in Egypt. And they had secured, this is unprecedented, they had secured all three pyramids for the entire night on the full moon. So we took all of these crystals, individual crystals, 64 and 128 matrices, into the pyramids, and we did specific meditations through the night. And so a lot of people had very amazing experiences, saw amazing things. There, some people saw ships, there were entities in the pyramids. And then we're on a bus going up to our boat, where we're going to go up the Nile to another power spot there. And one of our guides gets a call. I'm on the bus, I see him get this call, and the guide gets a call from the Russian Space Agency. And they're asking, like, okay, what were you guys doing in the pyramids that night? And he said, well, we weren't doing, you're not even allowed to meditate or chant in the pyramids. But of course, there were guards there that night, and they were actually keeping other people from coming in. So there was a lot of focus going on that night. And so the guide said, no, we were just kind of resonating together and so forth. And he said, no, listen, we've got geosynchronous satellites covering the entire planet, and we have never seen what came off the Giza Plateau that night. And so he said, well, that's nice to hear. We'll look into it and so forth. So that really put us on alert that maybe the stuff that Nassim is talking about linking into this field of consciousness is real. So we get up to the Isis temple, and we're in there a couple of nights later, and we do the same thing. Nassim's team has reserved the Isis temple from midnight to 3 a.m. So now he encourages, we're in there with a Holy of Holies, this granite rock. We put the I think it was a 64 on top, and we're chanting for hours and doing this visualization of focusing our energy, going into the center of the earth, and then connecting out with this online, geometry of space-time. Well, now we knew to check the seismographic results. So we did. And here's what we found. So this is just a picture off my phone, so it's not real big, but this is a seismographic map of activities in Asia and Africa. And so there's activity here, there's activity here. And then there's one giant thing coming out of, let's see, it's right at the top of the Red Sea. It's right on the Nile. Well, okay, that could be an amazing coincidence, but let's see what time it is. So here is their official alert. The most recent alert map, red alert, seismic risk. And then you look at the date, October 15th, which is the day we were in the Isis temple at 1:23 a.m. That was right at the peak of our meditation. So there is something going on that Nassim has been tapping into that is very real and very measurable. So I want to share one other thing about Egypt thing, because it's just such an exciting mind blower. Okay, there was a woman on the tour named Mitsumi Adachi. And she was, this is in Abydos, where we showed the pictures before. She was taking video as the sun was beginning to set. So you'll see a couple of flash camera lights go off, but then there's two places where there's this dart of light goes flashing by. So take a look at this. So there was one of them. Okay, did you see that? Let me play it for you one more time. This flash of light goes by really fast. And, people they say, oh, well, it might have been a moth, flying in front of the camera, and maybe there was a flash on it or something like that. Well, when Mitsumi sent me this video, I did a freeze frame. This is what that was. And if nobody's seen these before, if anybody who hasn't, this is what's called a rod. And it's an unidentified flying object that is being seen all over the world now, particularly in sacred spots, particularly at the mouth of deep caves and so forth. And it's this luminous rod of light that has this spiral filament rotating very fast around the outside that seems to project it at amazing speeds. Okay, so I digress. Let's continue on with our questions here.
Hi, it's Drew Freeman again from the Thrive On team. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of the interview. If you'd like to join us for part 2, the next 90 minutes, you can do so with a free 7-day Freedom Portal trial membership. What's the Freedom Portal, you may ask? It's a subscriber-only portal where our freedom-loving community gathers together several times a month to join Foster and his guests for amazing shows like the one that you are seeing with Nassim here. I'm going to show you a quick 2-minute overview video of the Freedom Portal. After the video, stay on and I'll show you how to sign up for your free trial.
The key is freedom. We are in a lethal mess right now in the world.
They're lying, and we know they're lying, and they know that we know that they're lying, yet still they lie.
Did you see what Fauci said? Did you see what the WHO did? Things that start bubbling up that I just feel like I need to communicate with somebody because there's all this crazy stuff happening.
Media is the greatest enemy and is the greatest tool being used against us.
A lot of people are probably familiar now with the World Economic Forum saying, well, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. But these people plan to own everything.
But we forget that underneath that are a bunch of scared children who have nuclear weapons and biological weapons and now artificial intelligence.
Technocracy and understanding that is really a doorway into the whole next level of red pill.
And that's one of the reasons why we're pushing so hard to expose this stuff and also to surface what are the ethical guidelines by which we can actually proceed harmoniously with the benefits of AI without falling prey to this authoritarian agenda.
This effort towards globalism and global governance is an effort to create extreme centralization. So a response to that is to decentralize.
The main promise that got me involved in the cryptocurrencies was the liberation and sovereignty of our species.
I think it's the most important topic on the planet right now. How can we create a universal morality that can actually guide us through all these different questions?
We are being connected by something much greater than ourselves.
People are gathering around truth and freedom because it's critical that we do.
Imagine the amount of human energy, creativity, liberation, release from fear.
We've got love, we've got the truth, and we've got the life force on our side. And ultimately that is going to be unstoppable, even if it's ugly in the transition.
We're changing the world. That's what's up, and the stakes have never been higher.
The good news is that this is still a story in the making.
Okay, let's get you signed up for your free trial so you can watch the rest of this show. Just takes a couple of minutes. When you click on the link in the description of this video, you'll be taken to this page. Once you get here, just click Get Access Now. And from here, you'll enter your name, email, and password. To check the box for the legalese, as well as this box, so you get our weekly newsletter as well as notifications of upcoming events. Select a plan. You can choose to pay monthly, annually, or if you're in abundance and would like a private one-on-one coaching session with Foster each quarter, choose the Angel option. Next, you'll need to enter your billing information. Like most trial memberships you've signed up for, you'll enter a credit card number. If within the 7-day free trial period you decide the Freedom Portal is not for you, no problem. Let us know and you won't be charged. Thanks for your part in creating a thriving future. Enjoy part 2 of the show, and I look forward to seeing you